Hi guys, we're back again. We've got another important questions video in terms of Necron units. Today we're going to be doing it on the Annihilation Barge from the Necron Codex. So today I've got 5 questions, 5 important questions to ask yourself before sticking an Annihilation Barge in your list. Before we get on with today's video, this video is sponsored by the Magnet Baron. If you need any magnetization kits for your Necrons, you can check the link in the description down below. I believe at the moment they've got a Tomb Blades kit. In fact, I've got it right here, you know. I might as well show you guys. I've just finished doing these. I will be doing a video at some point on these. But I've got... Can you see that? I never know if you can see this. You've got all the different weapon options. Let's have a look. If I get rid of my face, will that work? Let's see. So we've got all the weapon options. I don't know if that's going to blur. But also, what's cool about this is it's got a posable magnetized flight stand, so you can pop that off, and it's good for your transportation as well. So yeah, that's one of the products on the Magnet Baron's website, along with many others, all different factions as well, so check them out. Link will be down in the description down below. Right then, Annihilation Barge. We've got questions such as the best detachment, is it any good? We've got how many do you field, and so on. Best detachment. This is quite a firm question in most of these videos now. Best detachment for an Annihilation Barge. For me, it's got to be the Star Shatter Arsenal, because it's a vehicle. You're going to be gaining Assault because it's a vehicle, which means you're going to have a nice bit of movement. You're moving 10 inches anyway, so now it's going to be up to 16 inches, so between 11 and 16 inches of movement, and still firing, which is very, very useful. But also, you're going to get a +1 to the hit against enemy units on objective. So you'll be hitting on 2s with your Tesla Destructor as well as the cannon option that you take. That's pretty decent. The assault part I think is more what I'm focusing on here, because this model is only 105 points. That's good enough to be, or cheap enough to be, an action monkey. And as we know, these vehicles are quite tanky for Necrons, because most Necron vehicles have a 4+ invulnerable save. 3+ armor, 4+ invuln. Toughness is only 8, so it is light, a light vehicle, but 9 wounds as well. Action monkey material is where I'm going with that. Now in other detachments it can still be quite useful, again because it's tanky, but there's probably cheaper options within those detachments that have slightly less stats. For example, in the Hypercrypt Legion, maybe you go with some death marks to do some actions, or hex mark, and so on. So there are going to be cheaper ones. Canoptic Court, don't really need him. Not got the Canoptic keyword, don't really need it. The Awakened Dynasty, I'm not sold on using the barge in the Awakened Dynasty. The Command Barge, maybe, but not the Annihilation Barge. The Obeisance Phalanx, not really, I wouldn't go with it there. And the Annihilation Legion, no. So there's only really the Star Shatter Arsenal and potentially the Hypercrypt Legion again. You could use Cosmic Precision, and it's durable to withstand some attacks. So they're the 2 detachments, but I would definitely pick the Star Shatter Arsenal as the number 1 there. Is the Melvin Arcing any good? So it's got an ability in the shooting phase where you can, once you've shot your Tesla Destructor, you roll a d6 on the target, and any units that are within the, is it 3 inches? It's enemy units within 3 inches of the targeted unit, and on a 5+ for any of those units that have been targeted or within 3, they're going to suffer D3 mortal wounds. So is it good, is the question. Yes and no is the answer to that. Yes and no. I mean, if it was a 4+, it would be great. It would be perfect. It would be fair. But a third of a chance on a 5+ isn't as reliable. Now, it does work on multiple units though. So if you're going up against certain factions that are really like castled in together, your horde type factions, maybe it could be Tyranids, it could be Orcs, it could be Astra Militarum potentially. If they're like castled in, maybe Tau, then it could be pretty decent. You can spring this on a unit that's got loads of units within 3, and then you're going to get 1 or 2 of them to maybe go off. It could get really juicy though if you had multiple barges, and then you can keep repeating the ability on different targets over and over. But overall, is it any good? It's sort of par, it's okay. It just needs to be a 4+ in my opinion. That's what I would change if we were to get a new update or a new codex or just 11th edition, that's something I would change for the Annihilation Barge. Next we got which cannon should I take? So we've obviously got the Twin Tesla Destructor as our standout weapon, the big heavy weapon on the top that replaces the Overlord if you were to build the kit as a command barge. But then you've got the two underslung weapons, well, option of two, Gauss Cannon or Tesla Cannon. I tend to go with Tesla on the smaller weapons, like the Immortals for example, but this version of the Tesla weapon doesn't have Assault. Now I know if you're playing the Star Shatter Arsenal, which you should be with barges, you gain Assault anyway, but just for an overall blanket statement, you don't get Assault. So the Gauss Cannon is probably the better option on paper. Yes, you do get one less attack, and yes, you've got one less strength, that's strength 5. But the -2 AP and 2 damage is key. It really is key, because you're more likely to actually do some damage or remove some small models. I suppose it does depend on your local gaming meta, your local gaming clubs, your meta, what you're going up against regularly. But a lot of people, in fact, are quite like me, quite lazy when it comes to the Tesla options. I kind of forget to pick a cannon before the game, and I kind of just go to my partner, I always go Tesla, so we'll just say Tesla, and it's double Tesla, it's easy peasy to remember. But if you do want to, hone in on trying to make your list slightly better, I think I would go with the Gauss on this occasion. But to be honest, it's whatever floats your boat. You're only getting 3 attacks. With lethal, you might not even roll a 6, so neither of them are fantastic weapons. I just wish the Destructor weapon had a bit of AP. That would make the whole thing much better, but as far as cannons go, I'd probably go with the Gauss Cannon. Do they work better solo? Or do they work solo? I probably should reword that question, but we'll leave it for now. Do they work better solo? Because you've got the option of taking 1, taking 2, or taking 3, of course. Not as a unit, they can't go into units. Now, something I wouldn't do within the Star Shatter Arsenal, just to begin this question off. Normally, you take the Silent King, or you take the Command Barge with the Dread Majesty enhancement for rerolls of hit rolls of 1, rerolls wound rolls of 1. Now they could potentially be hitting on 2s now, rerolling 1s against enemies on objectives, and you'll be rerolling 1s, which is nice, that's okay. You're very rarely missing. But remember, the cannons have the twin-linked ability. Sorry, the Destructor has the twin-linked ability, which is the main weapon. So you're going to be re-rolling all your wound rolls anyway. So re-rolling 1s to wound is pretty much pointless. You don't need it. So in the Star Shatter Arsenal with a Silent King or a Command Barge with the enhancement, it's probably not worth doing. You may as well go and stick with your Doomsday Arcs, or maybe it's your Catan, or whatever you're taking that should be beastie models. But as far as going solo or going with 3, let's think about 3 for a moment, right? If you're going again in the Star Shatter Arsenal, you've got 3 of these things. That could be quite aggressive. 3 Destructors, that's what? 18 shots, that's strength 8. Sustain hits 2 and twin linked. That sounds quite nice. I know the AP lacks, but everything that goes through is 2 damage. You hit better against enemy units on objectives in the Star Shatter Arsenal, and advancing, of course, as we mentioned earlier. Then you're going to add in the smaller cannon, whether it's 9 shots or 12 shots with 3 of these things. And then 3 lots of Melvin Arcing as well. Yes, it's on a 5+, but there's a chance at least one of them goes through on a single unit. If you take 3 though, that's 315 points, because they're 105 points each. But that buys you 27 toughness 8 wounds. That averages at nearly 12 points per wound, which, that's not actually that bad. And you've got 3 semi-durable light vehicles with a total of 9 OC. So you could actually huddle them all together. And they've all got invuln saves as well, don't forget. So they are very tanky for what they are. Yes, you can go and spend those points and get yourself a Catan, or get yourself a big blob of Wraiths or something. You could do something else with those points and invest them somewhere else. But if you wanted some ranged attacks that they're fairly tanky and do a little bit of work, 36-inch range, It may be okay, again, in the Star Shatter arsenal, but none of the other detachments, I wouldn't bother doing it. As for solo though, as for individual units, I don't think you're doing enough as an aggression type unit, as an offensive unit, doing, you know, with your range attacks, more of an action monkey. But at that point, you may as well probably go slightly cheaper. I would look at the Canoptic Reanimator potentially. In fact, that brings me on to the next question, so we'll leave that for now. The Codex competitor. I just mentioned the Reanimator, but there's actually one that's even more of a competitor within the Codex, which is the Triarch Stalker. Now, it's another light vehicle, similar points cost. I think it's 5 points more, isn't it? 110 points for a Stalker. Instead of 9 wounds, you get 12. Instead of 3 OC, you get 4 OC. It is slower by 2 inches, but you gain Scout 8 inches, which literally just makes up for it. You can fight in melee. It's not the best in melee with 4 attacks, but the damage is 3. In my most recent game, I was charged by some exalted 8-bound. It survived the assault, and then I slapped back and killed 3 of them. So they can do stuff, they literally can. I got maybe a little bit lucky on the rolls, but it can do stuff with damage 3. So they fight, they've got the option of the ranged weapons with the heat ray, particle beamers, and I forgot what the other one is, the Gorse. It's Gorse, isn't it? You've got options there. In the Star Shatter arsenal, it's a vehicle, so again, it's going to have assault. I think I prefer the versatility of a Triarch Stalker over the Barge. But if you've already got 3 Triarch Stalkers in your list, then maybe potentially you go towards the Barges. But don't forget, you're going to need to fit in like the Silent King, Command Barge, Doomsday Arcs, then your scoring units, and so on. You're probably not going to find enough room to start sticking Barges in as well as Triarch Stalkers, unless you've sacrificed something else within your list, which is likely going to be something that you really do need, Doomsday Arcs. So the overall question, is it any good? I think they're okay. They do serve a bit of a purpose, in a niche purpose if you like. 1 or 2 detachments, but there are options that you can take instead of it. So are they good? They're sort of just meh. They're sort of average. I'd say they're just average. Nothing special about them, but you could use them. Nothing wrong with that. So guys, that is the Annihilation Barge all summed up with some questions. Let me know if you're using it down in the comments down below.